Incoming transmission. Initiating data compilation protocol. Compilation complete. Enhancing. Enhancing. Initializing data playback. Code alpha. Begin playback.
Hello! Welcome to another exciting and action-packed edition of Madness AM. This one in particular for 7/27/2015, July 27th, 2015. I apologize for my absence last week. I'll go over that in a second here, but yes, it is definitely the morning. Definitely the morning. Shh. Nothing to see here. Move along. We'll just pretend like it's bright and early in the morning, etc., because this is Madness AM after all. But anyway, so yeah, last week was kind of rough. About this time last year, and I'm pretty sure I did a podcast talking about this a little bit, but whether I did or I didn't, we'll kind of touch on the short of it right now. Around this time last year, I had this crazy anxiety attack that kind of manifests itself very physically, and I thought I was having a heart attack or something, and I went to the ER, and they did all kinds of checks on me, EKG and CT scans, and took some like blood samples and everything, and they could not find a damn thing wrong with me, which is very embarrassing. And they figured it was just some kind of heart attack. Not some kind of panic attack. And later, once I had started to internalize that and, told myself I was just panicking and tricking myself into thinking that, my brain and my chest were going to explode, after I identified that that's kind of what I was doing to myself, everything calmed down and started to go away. And 1 year ago around this time was also right around the time of the fire the year previously. And it's almost kind of started to come back a little bit, which is really weird. Because not that I didn't put too much stock in that sort of stuff, but you never think it's really going to affect you in any way or happen to you. But I guess it kind of is a little bit, which is just bizarre and kind of embarrassing too, when your feelings kind of start to do weird stuff to your body that you don't have any control over. And this week, it was definitely, a lot of it happens up here with me, in my upper back area and my neck and my shoulders and everything. And I think that is what kind of triggered all that stuff. When I scared myself into going to the emergency room a year ago, was the upper left side of my back was all knotted and crazy. And I was tricking myself into thinking it was my chest. And sure enough, when I started to kind of work on it, I got like a tennis ball and put it up against the wall behind me, and started grinding my back up against it. It started to work a lot of the crunchy, knotty stuff out of my muscles, and I started to feel almost immediately better, which is weird. But this past week, it almost kind of started to come back again. But I was able to sort of ride the wave, I guess, this time. And it was nowhere near as crazy as it was last year, because I had panicked last year and tricked myself into thinking it was way more serious, which made everything worse. So yeah, like that on top of a bunch of stuff going on with GameMaker. GameMaker kind of had a meltdown and would not compile my project. Same thing with my backups too. Like I would delete my project file locally, like on my C drive, and I would go grab a backup and put it on my C drive, and I would start that up, and then the same thing would happen. It would not compile, and it was hitting this weird bug where I think what had happened was, especially with the way I've been doing my backups, keeping my backups, something had overwritten somewhere, and the file pointers within, I don't know, GameMaker's XML sheet telling your project file where to get its assets, like where to get sprites and backgrounds and room files and things like that, had somehow gotten messed up, and it was looking for certain things that didn't exist anymore, and it just wouldn't clean itself. It wouldn't bathe after it wouldn't pick up after itself, and no matter what I did, overriding it with backups and everything, it just kept doing this. It would I would click compile, and you're watching the compile window do its thing and everything, and it would get to writing scripts, and then it would stop dead in its tracks, and it would say, the asset compiler has encountered a problem. We are sorry for the inconvenience, and it would give this little vague thing like index array out of bounds or something. It wouldn't tell you where in a script anywhere that this problem was coming from, and I think it was like kind of an internal array, like GameMaker's back-end stuff, where it has an array where it keeps track of where all of your assets are, and you don't really have direct access to that within the user interface or anything. So it had been creating holes in itself, and it was trying to find files to use that didn't exist anymore and everything. So it would just be, nope, sorry, can't do it. See ya. Which I've run into this problem before too, but I've been able to fix it. It's such a vague and weird and nebulous error that sometimes it could really be anything. Like I searched the forums and tried to find other people that may have encountered a similar situation. It was usually almost completely different from instance to instance what people were saying, and some people all they had to do was like clear their asset cache or whatever, clean their asset cache, and then it would be fixed. Some people would just have to save their project under a new name, a different name, and it would be fixed. None of that worked for me. What finally ended up working, and this had been happening all week, which kind of contributed to the tenseness in my back, on top of this like weird, now recurring, annually, almost physical anxiety issue, I guess. Where what did I do to fix it? I went to one of my backups and I grabbed only the asset folders. So like in your project file, you have your actual GMX like project file. Or is it a GMX? Whatever the main project file is, where it has everything, and everything's compressed and everything in that thing. And then it has your subfolders where your backgrounds go and your sprites go and your audio goes and all that stuff. So I just grabbed all that stuff, copied it, and pasted it into my local project file, and it worked somehow. But the way I have been doing backups this whole time is mostly through Dropbox, where I'll work on the game, and then when I'm ready to back it up, I will save it as like a build number with a date. So Savage Alpha, 67 for 7/27/2015. So there'd be a new one every damn time, and my buddy Tim, who's worked in games for forever, has been a game developing warrior, veteran warrior hero for the last however long, since like Planescape Torment and Fallout 2 and all those games. Introduced me to this sort of subversion control method where you set up a repository on a server, and you have this sort of like API thing or user interface thing where you can update your project file in like little iterations, and it only takes little snapshots of like things that have changed. It doesn't copy over the whole project file every single time you update, but it takes what you changed and adds it to this list, sort of, and it dates it, and it knows when you did it and all this stuff. So what you can then do is if something doesn't work, you can delete your whole project thing, and you can go into your subversion control, grab the last build that you did, and it will give it to you, and everything will be in place, and everything will be working, and it's fantastic. And you can look and see what changed from build to build. You can go into the actual scripts and everything and see like, okay, I made that change there, I made this change here, I added this sprite. This sprite was changed or modified from this build to this build. I don't like this anymore. I can go back and grab this one. Same thing with actual objects and scripts and assets from build to build. You can be like, I don't like this new one that I did. I want to get rid of it and just go back to another version of this sprite, which is fantastic. I don't know how I lived without this system or this method of organization and keeping track of everything. It's fantastic. And it has since just like kind of deflated one of these big old stress balloons that I've been carrying around for, since the project started to get larger. I almost wanted to say unwieldy. It's not quite unwieldy, but it's, the way that I was doing it was very clumsy and precarious, and eventually fell. It fell down, which is what I witnessed this week with all this nonsense, where the game wouldn't compile anymore because I probably had too many versions of it, hanging around my desktop and everything. So what I did finally at the end of the week was, reorganized everything, and I just took my actual working directory and just put it in Dropbox, and I just work from there now because it just, auto updates all the time. And then when I'm ready to, I commit the build to my repository online through I'm using CloudForge, and I'm using a Tortoise SVN, it's called, as my sort of interface, the thing that communicates between, my working directory and the repository online. So it's just amazing, and it's all like automated. You barely have to do anything to set it up. The initial setup was very confusing to me because I wasn't really clear on what it wanted me to do at first. Like, you're supposed to create a working directory, and I didn't know that. I just kind of uploaded my initial build, my first build to CloudForge, the one that I was going to be working from, and that I am going to be working from here on out. I thought that was all it would need, and then I could just go and open up my project file and work on it, and then I would update it. But no, it wants you to create like a checkout, it's called, where which is essentially pointing it to your working directory, which I thought, doing your initial upload of the first build was one and the same. Like, I thought that would handle itself, but it didn't, and I was very confused, and that took a few hours to wrap my silly little brain around. I'd almost been doing it backwards, I think, because it needed the working directory, and without it, you couldn't update or anything, or commit builds to your repository. But now it's all working, and it's all great. It's fantastic, and I cannot believe I was sort of getting on for the last few years without this system in place. So yeah, between this and a few of the other peripheral tricks and pieces of software that I've picked up over the last few months, of just like, it makes me excited to start a new project eventually after Savage is done. I'll tell you that right now. Being able to work from day one with all of this in place, instead of having this very archaic methodology going forward, and then trying to add, update it with these new techniques and everything for managing your project. in and of itself has been a task. But yeah, that's that's kind of what's been going on with the game last week. So I was just kind of like a little beside myself, and not really all that into doing one of these, which is fine, I guess. Like I'll just do these whenever I feel like. Anyway, I think once a day. I'm sure there will be weeks where I'm like, yeah, I want to do this every day, and I'll do a Madness AM every day or whatever. But again, I touched on this earlier too. It's like when you do one of these every day, you run into the problem where you kind of run out of stuff to talk about. But now I've got this whole week of nightmares to discuss with you. So yeah, makes for a better, arguably a better little sit down, I guess. So yeah. Anyway, everything's running smoothly and working much better. I had said I was gonna mess around with hit film. All that stuff that happened has kind of derailed that, but I also took some videos on a more positive note. Not that story didn't have a happy ending, but last weekend, I forget if I had mentioned it or not, but I went and I picked up the Age of Sigmar box set and the big old hardback, I guess you could call it a rule book, but like supplemental book, the companion piece to the starter set, essentially, which is more of a almost a giant fluff book because the rules are so little, that they're very. I mean, they're only 4 pages, so which is one of the big draws of Age of Sigmar is that they condense these rules down in this core rule set, and all the units themselves have their war scrolls, which are almost like little kind of tiny rule snippets that go along with the units, like a card from Magic the Gathering or something. But I went and I picked that up. I walked the 2 miles down to Dragon's Lair and picked up the box and the book, and kind of started to put some of the miniatures together. Had all that crap happen with Savage last week. Over the weekend, I decided to build out the rest of the miniatures after I got Source or CloudForge and Tortoise SVN up and running. I was like, okay, I need a break. I need to do something else tedious that's bad for my back. And I put together all the miniatures in the kit for Age of Sigmar, and they look gorgeous. I'm very excited to start playing around with them a little bit. I'm excited to start painting them eventually. I'm all out of paint. Again, because of the fire. The fire seems to always come up. But I mean, that's kind of big, right? So then that's kind of been the cause for a lot of things. So it's kind of a difficult thing to not bring up, I guess, because it's like, oh, because of the fire, this, but so eventually I'll start adding more paint to my non-existent collection again. I have a few pots that I think are way too old that did survive through the fire, and I have not opened them since. I haven't opened them to look to see what happened, so I have no idea what the heat did to them or anything. But they were in like a tackle box that was pulled out of the apartment that had made it under like piles of like ceiling crap. So I have that sitting there. I don't know if I'll be able to use any of that stuff, but yeah, the models look gorgeous. Tons of chaos models in there. 20 just in general, 20 rank and file type troops in general come with it. And then you got your, like 5 elite troop models, and then the hero sort of models, the general types. And then the Stormcast Eternals all look crazy, and they're all huge. All of these models are very big. They did fit together kind of weird, a lot of them during assembly, which I thought was kind of strange. It was sort of difficult to piece some of them together, which I thought was weird because it's a starter set and you want accessibility and you want very low barrier for entry, or very, very insubstantial barrier for entry, right, in your starter set, which seems to be their whole method surrounding the release of this is it's ease of access, and it's easy to get into, and it's easy to set up, and easy to digest the rules, and very modular sort of system, and you kind of do what you want, and very much about the narrative. So I thought that was kind of weird. And also one of the bases, I did not have the little bases that you put your guys on. I did not have enough bases for the Chaos Blood Reavers. It was one short, and they gave me one base that was too big. So I was a little miffed there. My feathers got ruffled. But they're all together now. So I just kind of substituted grabbed a Space Marine base and threw that guy in there, and he fit on there fine. He doesn't match his Chaos brothers, but they're Chaos, mix it up a little bit. So yeah, but I have kind of recorded a couple little goofy vlogs about my misadventures putting those models together and everything. So that's where I'll start experimenting with hit film, is editing together a very simple little video chronicling my setup of the Age of Sigmar starter box. And I had actually finished most of them. Towards the end, I decided to just stream a little bit of putting the models together on my Twitch channel. So that was fun. I did that for maybe about 3 hours or so, but the setup was very strange because this right here, this camera, this webcam sucks. And of course, I kind of play it up a little bit by turning the saturation way down so it's black and white and everything. So I mean, it's not naturally. It doesn't naturally capture in black and white, so it's just crappy. It's very low resolution, and the aspect ratio is weird. And so what I did was I took my phone, my HTC One phone here, and I downloaded an app for it called IP Webcam, and there's like a companion program that you put on your desktop that creates like an IP address for your phone, and it turns it into essentially a wireless webcam. So what I did was I set all that up, and I took my phone and clipped it to a boom stand. I have this little tiny mic clip that goes to a Sennheiser mic, an E609 microphone, which I've used to mic guitar amps and stuff. And the clip that comes with it is very small. It's got a very thin sort of spacing in between its, I don't know what you would want to call it, the grabber, the teeth. And the phone fit very snugly in there, and I just kind of put it above the desk. I downloaded another app that turns your phone into a lamp and gives you some good lighting to work with. And I just illuminated my desk, had it capturing, me putting together my tiny men, my toy soldiers. And what it does is it captures to it streams to your browser. And I took the browser and streamed that through OBS onto Twitch. So this is really complicated series of mechanisms that I used to film myself putting together tiny plastic soldiers. Can't get much nerdier than that, right? But it worked, and it was fun. I don't know if I want to do that every single time. I might just wait till I eventually have a better webcam to do it from, because this one, it just looks terrible when you try to capture detail and stuff, like the little putting together the little miniatures. And mostly what I was doing was shaving off the mold lines on the miniatures so that they don't show up when they're finally painted, because when you paint them, all the detail kind of comes out if you put thin enough coats on. And what you wind up with are the mold lines around the pieces of plastic, which is where the two halves of the mold are pushed together, and they inject the plastic and create the miniature. And you get those little mold lines, and they look rather unsightly once the paint has been applied, and they just look, they're very noticeable, especially if you dry brush and you pick out the raised areas of the model. Those mold lines get highlighted, and they become very obvious. So what I like to do is, shave them off, and that's kind of what I did with my Sunday, and that saw the completion of the Age of Sigmar starter set, which is pretty fantastic, pretty cool. Can't wait to start playing around with them a little bit. First, what I got to do is do a new update for Savage after that whole mess was sorted. I've been meaning to do one, and then all that crap happened, and I was like, well, shit. This is obnoxious, and this needs to be fixed. Otherwise, I'm not gonna be able to sleep, and it's gonna bug me, and it's gonna make me sick and anxious, and yeah, and I'll never be able to work again, and I'll have my own little mini apocalypse here. But that's all done, and it's working great. So I can get back to it now, and I want to do another development update. Put it on the site, put it on the Kickstarter page, and all that good stuff. But anyway, I think that's gonna do it. I will also edit together the little Age of Sigmar stuff and put that up on the YouTube channel, for better or worse. But anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you next time.
Hey! No, baby. No, baby. No, baby. Hey. When? Hey! No, baby. When? Hey! No, baby. No, baby. No, baby. Hey, hey. No, 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 no. No, baby. No, baby. When? No, I love you.